In the underbelly of Chicago, where the skyline pierced the night like jagged knives, Don Vittorio Russo ruled his empire with an iron fist wrapped in velvet gloves. His word was law, his enemies vanished like smoke, but beneath the layers of power and paranoia lay a father's terror, his only son, young Matteo, a boy of 12 whose laughter once echoed through the marble halls of their fortified mansion. Matteo had been born under a lucky star, or so they thought, until one stormy autumn evening when he collapsed during a family dinner, his small body seizing as if struck by lightning. Foam bubbled at his lips, his eyes rolled back, and the room erupted into screams. Vittorio's wife, Isabella, clutched the boy's limp form, her silk gown stained with his blood from a bitten tongue, while guards barked orders into radios, summoning ambulances that never arrived fast enough in their shadowed world. The best doctors in the world descended upon the Russo estate like vultures to a feast, neurologists from Johns Hopkins, pediatric specialists from the Mayo Clinic, even a shaman from Sicily flown in on a private jet, whispering ancient incantations over the boy's fevered brow. One by one, they poked and prodded, hooked him to machines that hummed like angry bees, prescribing cocktails of drugs that promised miracles but delivered only side effects. 72 hours became a week, then two, as Matteo slipped into a coma, his vital signs a fragile thread. The doctors murmured in hushed tones about encephalitis, then tumors, then some exotic virus from their travels. Bills piled up like bodies in a mob hit, millions spent on experimental treatments, private jets, and bribes to keep the press at bay. But nothing worked. The boy's skin grew sallow, his breath's shallow rasps that haunted Isabella's dreams. Vittorio, the man who had ordered hits without blinking, now paced the corridors, his face carved deeper with each failure, smashing crystal decanters against walls and roaring threats that made even his capos flinch. "If you can't save him," he snarled at the lead physician one dawn, "I'll bury you all with him." Word of the Russo heir's plight seeped through the city's cracks, whispered in back alley bars and gilded salons alike. It reached the ears of Elena Vasquez, a woman whose life was as invisible as the dust she swept away. Elena was the shy cleaner, a ghost in the machine of the elite hospitals that serviced the likes of the Russos. At 42, she had mopped more blood and tears than most saw in a lifetime, her hands calloused from bleach and her back bent from years of scrubbing floors on her knees. Born in a dusty village in Mexico, she had crossed the border with dreams of nursing school, but life had other plans: a sick mother, a wayward brother lost to the cartels, and the endless grind of survival in a city that chewed up immigrants like her and spat out bones. She lived in a cramped walk-up in Pilsen, sharing it with roaches in the faint hope that one day she'd save enough for her own child's future. Shy to the point of invisibility, Elena spoke only when spoken to, her dark eyes downcast, her uniform a faded blue smock that smelled of pine sol. Colleagues called her La Muda, the mute one, not out of malice but pity, for she carried her sorrows like a second skin. Elena's routine was unyielding. Arrive at dawn to the pediatric ICU at Mercy General, where the air hummed with monitors and the sharp tang of antiseptic. She pushed her cart through corridors lined with rooms of suffering, children with cancers that bloomed like dark flowers, teens wired to ventilators after car wrecks, infants too small for the world. She wiped counters, emptied bedpans, and listened, always listening, to the fragments of lives spilling out. Nurses gossiped about celebrity patients, doctors barked orders laced with arrogance. But Elena heard the unspoken, the fear in a mother's sob, the defeat in a colleague's sigh. One morning, as she buffed the chrome railing outside Matteo Russo's private suite, secured by men in ill-fitting suits with bulges under their jackets, she caught a snippet from two interns huddled by the coffee machine. "Russo's kid, 100 docs now, and zip. Coma's deepening. They say it's over." Elena's rag paused mid-swipe, her heart clenching. The Russos, she knew the name from tabloid whispers, from the way orderlies straightened when their shadows fell across a room. Mafia, untouchable, deadly. That night, in her dim apartment lit by a single bulb, Elena sat at her scarred formica table, nursing a cup of weak tea while thunder rattled the windows. The story gnawed at her, a splinter under her nail. She thought of her own son, little Tomas, safe for now at 8 years old, with his gap-toothed grin and endless questions about stars. What if it were him? What if the white coats failed him too? She pulled out a hidden box from under her bed, yellowed notebooks filled with scribbles, diagrams of hearts and lungs sketched in pencil on napkins. They weren't hers. They belonged to her late sister, Rosa, who had been the family dreamer, studying medicine in Guadalajara before tuberculosis claimed her at 25. Rosa had filled those pages with wonders, herbal remedies from their abuela's garden, pressure points that could ease pain without pills, patterns and symptoms that doctors overlooked because they were too busy chasing scans. The body speaks if you listen, Rosa had written in looping script. Elena had kept them all these years, reading them like scripture on lonely nights, wishing she could trade her mop for a stethoscope. The next day brought rain, sheets of it that turned the streets to rivers. Elena arrived early, her shoes squelching, and found the ICU in uproar. Matteo's room was a hive, doctors in clusters, arguing over charts, Isabella Russo wailing in the hall, her diamonds flashing like accusations. Vittorio himself had arrived overnight, a hulking figure in a cashmere coat, his face a mask of granite. He loomed over the bedside, one hand on the boy's forehead, murmuring in Italian prayers Elena half understood from church. As she emptied trash bins discreetly in the corner, avoiding eyes, she heard the chief resident's voice crack, "Don Russo, we've exhausted every avenue. It's a neurological enigma. We recommend palliative care." The words hung like smoke. Vittorio whirled, his eyes, cold as gunmetal, fixing on the man. "Palliative, you think I flew you here to watch him die?" His voice was low, lethal. The doctor stammered, backing away as guards shifted closer. Elena didn't plan it. Her feet moved before her brain caught up, the mop bucket forgotten. She stepped into the room, her heart hammering like a trapped bird. All eyes turned. Doctors, nurses, the Russos, the suits. She felt exposed, small, her accent thick as she spoke. "Senor, Don Russo, por favor, I clean here, but I know something. From my sister. She was smart, like a doctor. She wrote how to find what's hidden." The room froze. A doctor snorted, "This is a janitor," but Vittorio held up a hand, silencing him. He studied Elena, from her trembling hands to the faded cross necklace at her throat. "Speak," he commanded, his tone brooking no refusal. Swallowing terror, Elena poured out Rosa's words, the overlooked signs, the rhythm of breaths that told stories machines missed, the simple touches that could coax life back. "It's not magic, it's listening. Let me try. If I fail, you do what you must. But for the boy, please." Isabella, her face, streaked with mascara, clutched Vittorio's arm. "Vittorio, what harm? She's nothing to lose." He nodded once, sharply. "You have 1 hour. Fail, and you join the failures." Elena nodded, numb, and approached the bed. Matteo lay there, tubes snaking from his arms, his chest rising in shallow hitches. She washed her hands at the sink, then gently took his wrist, feeling the thready pulse. Closing her eyes, she recalled Rosa's notes, "Fever hides poisons, touches reveal echoes." She pressed fingers to his temples, then neck, murmuring soft Spanish lullabies to calm the room's tension. Minutes ticked by, 5, 10. The doctors watched, arms crossed, skeptical. Then Elena paused, her brow furrowing. "His neck, hot here, but cold there. And the eyes, flicker when I press." She turned to Vittorio. "He drank something, tea, from home," Isabella gasped. "The Nona's remedy, for his cough last week, herbal tonic from the old country." Elena's mind raced to the notebooks. Belladonna traces in folk brews, atropine poisoning mimicking seizures. "Poison," she whispered, "not disease. The tonic, too much nightshade. It builds slow, attacks nerves." Chaos erupted, doctors scrambling for atropine antidotes, confirming via tox screen. But it was too late for half measures, the damage was deep. Elena, drawing on Rosa's sketches, guided them, charcoal slurry to bind the toxin, precise IV drips timed to the boy's flagging rhythm. She held Matteo's hand through it, singing softly, her voice a thread pulling him back. As the clock struck the hour, his eyelids fluttered. A cough, ragged but real. "Mama," the word was a miracle. Vittorio sank to his knees, gathering the boy close, sobs shaking his broad frame. Isabella wept, kissing Elena's hands. The doctors stood slack-jawed, one muttering, "Impossible. How?" But Elena only smiled faintly, shy as ever. "Not me, my sister." She saw what others miss. Word spread like wildfire through the hospital grapevine, then the city, the shy cleaner who saved the Mafia heir when science knelt in defeat. Vittorio, true to his code, ensured Elena's debts vanished, her apartment traded for a brownstone, Tomas enrolled in the best schools. But gratitude in their world came with strings. Guards appeared at her door, polite but firm. "The Don wishes to protect you." Elena, for the first time, lifted her chin. "Tell him we need no chains." Just time with my boy. Yet shadows lingered. The tonic hadn't been an accident. Nona's recipe was laced deliberately, a rival's poison slipped into the supply. Whispers of betrayal circled the family, and Elena found herself drawn deeper, her gift, a beacon in the dark. One night, as she tucked Tomas in, a knock echoed, Vittorio himself, hat in hand. "You saved more than my son," he said gruffly. "You woke me." From then on, the cleaner became confidant, her notebooks a map through treachery. Matteo thrived, calling her Tia Elena, and in quiet moments, she taught him Rosa's lessons. Power isn't in fists, but in seeing the hidden. The world was shocked, yes, but Elena. She simply picked up her mop, knowing some stains never fully fade. In the fog-shrouded hills of San Francisco, where cable cars clanged like funeral bells and the bay swallowed secrets whole, Carmen Falcone held court over a syndicate that spanned docks to high rises. He was a legend, the Silver Fox, they called him, with silver hair and a smile that hid razor teeth. But legends have Achilles' heels, and Carmine's was his daughter, little Sophia, just 7, with curls like raven wings and eyes that sparkled with mischief. She was his light, the one pure thing in a life of ledgers stained red. Until the day she didn't wake up. It was a Tuesday, ordinary as fog, when Sophia's nanny found her blue-lipped and still in her canopy bed, dolls scattered like fallen soldiers. The Falcone machine mobilized instantly, private helicopters to Stanford Medical, bribes to jump queues, a parade of pediatricians who poked and scanned until the wee hours. 87 experts later, from Harvard hotshots to European enigmas, they threw up their hands. Idiopathic coma, they diagnosed, a fancy term for, we don't know shit. Sophia's tiny frame withered under the assault of IVs and monitors, her vitals a Morse code of despair. Carmen, who had once garroted a man for a late payment, now haunted the hospital like a ghost, chain smoking in defiance of no smoking signs, his voice a gravel whisper as he begged, "Fix her. Name your price." Isabella, his wife of 2 decades, had taken to the chapel, lighting candles until her fingers blistered, while capos scoured black markets for miracle cures, exotic elixirs from shamans, untested serums from rogue labs. Nothing pierced the veil. Desperation clawed at Carmen. He dreamed of Sophia's laughter, waking in sweats to the beep of machines that mocked him. Enter Rosa Herrera, the unassuming janitress of fogged windows and sterile halls at Pacific Grace Hospital. At 38, Rosa was a wisp of a woman, her frame swallowed by the starched uniform, her footfalls silent as a cat's. She had come from Oaxaca with a violin case full of dreams, music school, perhaps, or art, but America had ground them underheel. A factory fire took her fiancé, a deportation scare her nerve, leaving her with a daughter, Lupita, sharp as a switchblade and twice as quick. Rosa cleaned to keep them afloat, her shift stretching from dusk to dawn, her hands raw from ammonia, her spirit a quiet ember. Shy didn't begin to cover it, she blushed at compliments, averted eyes in elevators, spoke in murmurs laced with her mother's tongue. But beneath the timidity burned a core of steel, forged in nights poring over library books on botany and anatomy, secrets gleaned from eavesdropping on rounds. Her neighbors called her La Curandera, half joking, for the poultices she whipped up from kitchen herbs to soothe Lupita's fevers or mend a neighbor's sprain. The Falcone drama unfolded in whispers through the staff lounge, where Rosa lingered over cold coffee, rag in hand. "Poor kid's fading," a nurse sighed one midnight. "Docs say it's genetic, some mitochondrial fuckery. 100th consult tomorrow." Rosa's cloth stilled. Mitochondria. She recalled a dog-eared volume from the free clinic. Tiny powerhouses gone rogue, starved of what the body craved. That evening, in their shotgun flat overlooking the projects, Rosa shared the tale with Lupita over beans and rice. The girl, 11 and all elbows and intellect, leaned in, eyes alight. "Mommy, it's like the mitochondria story you read me, the ones that need coenzyme Q10, but masked by something else." Lupita had inherited her father's curiosity, devouring textbooks Rosa smuggled home, sketching cellular wars on notebook margins. What if it's not genetic? What if it's environmental? Like the paint in old houses, lead leaching slow. Rosa hesitated, the Mafia's shadow. Long and lethal. Nina, the Falcones eat meddlers for breakfast. But sleep evaded her, visions of Sophia's curls mingling with memories of her own lost loves. Dawn found her at the hospital, the air thick with iodine and regret. Sophia's suite was a fortress, suits at the door, machines whirring like distant artillery. Carmen slumped in a chair, tie askew, a titan diminished. As Rosa buffed the doorframe, pretending invisibility, a code blue blared. Nurses swarmed. Sophia's heart stuttered. In the frenzy, Rosa slipped in, drawn like moth to flame. "Senor," she ventured, voice a thread, "the air, it's heavy. Filters. Or the walls." Carmen lifted his head, gaze piercing. A guard tensed, hand to holster, but the boss waved him off. "Speak, woman." With knees quaking, Rosa explained, "Lead in the mansion's vintage pipes, perhaps, or arsenic in the water from the hills, bioaccumulating until it choked the cells. My daughter, she studies. Says mitochondria starve on heavy metals. Test the blood for chelation needs." Doctors scoffed from the doorway, quackery from the help, but Carmine's eyes narrowed. He had built an empire on hunches, this felt like one. "Do it," he barked. Samples rushed to the lab, results pinging back in hours, elevated lead, chelating agents screaming for attention. The team mobilized, EDTA drips flowing under Rosa's watchful eye as she described Lupita's theories, antioxidants from green tea extracts, B vitamins to reboot the engines. Hours blurred, tension coiled like a spring. Then, a gasp, Sophia's chest hitched, color blooming in her cheeks. "Papa," the word cracked the room open. Carmen enveloped her, a bear with his cub, while Isabella crossed herself repeatedly. The lead doc gaped. "How, we missed this?" Rosa shrugged, fading back. "You look at pictures. We look at homes." News rocketed through the underworld. The janitress who pierced the veil when Titans toppled. Carmen sought her out that week,